Vincent Carter stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office on the 42nd floor, watching the city below pulse with afternoon energy. At 38, he had built Carter Technologies from a small startup into a billion-dollar empire. His tailored charcoal suit fit perfectly. His dark hair showed just a touch of silver at the temples, and his sharp blue eyes rarely missed detail. Yet lately, those same eyes reflected a tiredness that no amount of sleep could cure. His phone buzzed with another notification. Vincent glanced at it, then returned his gaze to the skyline. Somewhere in that vast city, people were living lives that didn't revolve around quarterly reports and shareholder meetings. He wondered what that felt like. The arrival that changed everything. The door opened without a knock, and Vincent turned, ready to remind whoever it was about basic office etiquette. But the words died on his lips when he saw the woman entering with a tablet in one hand and a coffee cup in the other. Natasha Monroe was nothing like he expected. His previous assistant had been efficient but timid, always apologizing even when there was nothing to apologize for. This woman walked with purpose, her burgundy blazer and black pencil skirts somehow managing to look both professional and effortlessly stylish. Her chestnut hair fell in loose waves past her shoulders, and her hazel eyes met his without a trace of nervousness. "Mr. Carter, I'm Natasha Monroe, your new executive assistant," she said, her voice clear and confident. "I've reviewed your schedule for the week, and we have a problem." Vincent raised an eyebrow. Most people spent their first day trying to impress him. This woman was already pointing out problems. "The Tokyo investors meeting is scheduled for Thursday at 9 in the morning, Natasha continued, setting the coffee on his desk. "But that's 3 in the morning Tokyo time. Either someone made a mistake or you're testing them to see who's actually paying attention to time zones." Despite himself, Vincent felt a smile tugging at his lips. "And which do you think it is?" "The first one," Natasha replied, without hesitation. "You're demanding, Mr. Carter, but you're not petty. I've already contacted their office to reschedule for a more reasonable time. They appreciated the consideration." Vincent studied her carefully. "You've been here less than an hour, and you're already changing my schedule?" "I'm fixing problems before they become bigger problems," she corrected. "That's what you're paying me for." The daily dance of challenge and response. Over the next 3 weeks, Vincent discovered that Natasha Monroe was unlike anyone who had ever worked for him. She anticipated his needs before he voiced them, caught errors in reports that everyone else missed, and occasionally disagreed with him in ways that were both respectful and maddeningly logical. She also had this habit of making casual observations that hit uncomfortably close to the truth. "You skip lunch 4 days out of 5, she mentioned one afternoon, placing a sandwich on his desk. "Your doctor called earlier about rescheduling your physical. Apparently, you've postponed it 3 times. Should I be worried that my boss is going to collapse from stress?" "I'm fine," Vincent said automatically. Fine is what people say when they're not fine but don't want to talk about it. "Eat the sandwich. I have a meeting with the marketing team in 10 minutes, and I'd prefer not to worry about you passing out while I'm gone." She left before he could respond, and Vincent found himself staring at the sandwich with a strange mix of annoyance and something else he couldn't quite name. When was the last time someone had actually cared whether he ate lunch? The moment that started it all. It was a Friday evening, and most of the office had cleared out hours ago. Vincent was preparing to leave when he noticed Natasha still at her desk, working on something on her laptop. Her blazer hung on the back of her chair, and she'd kicked off her heels, looking more relaxed than he'd ever seen her during work hours. "You're still here?" he observed, loosening his tie. "Just finishing the presentation for Monday. Almost done." Vincent watched her work for a moment, noticing the focused expression on her face, the way she bit her lower lip slightly when concentrating. There was something captivating about her dedication, her refusal to do anything halfway. "I take the stairs down for exercise, all 42 floors. Now she looked up, interest sparking in her hazel eyes. "Every day?" "Most days. I time myself. It's a challenge." Natasha leaned back in her chair, a slow smile spreading across her face that made Vincent's heart beat a little bit faster. "How competitive are you, Mr. Carter?" "Very," he admitted. "Why?" "Because I ran track in college," she said, standing and slipping her shoes back on. 800 meters and cross country. And I'm thinking that a man who spends 12 hours a day behind a desk might not be as fast as he thinks he is." The challenge in her voice was unmistakable, and Vincent felt something he hadn't experienced in years, genuine excitement about something that had nothing to do with business. "Are you suggesting a race, Miss Monroe?" "I'm suggesting a bet," Miss Monroe corrected, walking over to stand in front of his desk. "We race down the stairs. Whoever loses has to do whatever the winner says for one full day. Within reason, of course." Vincent knew this was unprofessional. He knew he should politely decline and maintain proper boundaries. But as he looked at Natasha, at the playful challenge in her eyes and the confident set of her shoulders, he realized something important. He was tired of always doing the expected thing. "You're on," Vincent said. "Tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock. That gives us both time to prepare." Natasha extended her hand, and when Vincent shook it, he felt an electric current run up his arm that had nothing to do with static electricity. "See you tomorrow, Mr. Carter," she said, gathering her things. "And fair warning, I don't lose gracefully." "Neither do I, Miss Monroe." As she walked toward the elevator, Vincent remained standing, his hand still tingling from her touch, his mind already racing through what he might ask her to do if he won, and more dangerously, what she might ask of him if she did. The bet was set, the stakes were high, and for the first time in years, Vincent Carter felt truly alive. Vincent arrived at the office at 5:30 in the morning, 30 minutes earlier than agreed. He told himself it was just strategic planning, but the truth was simpler. He had barely slept, his mind spinning with anticipation and something deeper he refused to name. He changed in his private bathroom, pulling on athletic shorts and a fitted gray training shirt. As he stretched in the empty hallway, he caught his reflection in the darkened windows. When was the last time he had felt this kind of nervous energy about anything other than a major business deal? The elevator chimed at exactly 6 o'clock, and Natasha stepped out. Vincent felt his breath catch. Gone was the polished executive assistant in tailored business attire. She wore black running leggings and a deep green tank top that matched her eyes, her hair pulled back in a high ponytail that revealed the graceful line of her neck. She carried a small gym bag and wore an expression of calm determination. "Punctual as always, Miss Monroe," Vincent managed, forcing his voice to remain steady. "I believe in honoring my commitments," Natasha replied, setting her bag down and beginning her own stretching routine. Vincent tried not to stare at how fluid and practiced her movements were. "Though I notice you arrived early. Nervous?" "Cautious," he corrected. "There's a difference." "If you say so." Her smile was knowing, almost teasing. "Should we establish the rules clearly before we start?" Setting the stakes. They stood at the entrance to the emergency stairwell, and Vincent suddenly realized how serious this had become. The 42 floors stretched below them, a concrete canyon that would determine the next 24 hours of their relationship. "The winner's request has to be reasonable," Vincent said. "Nothing illegal, nothing that compromises either of our careers permanently." "Agreed," Natasha said, "but everything else is fair game. And, Mr. Carter, you should know something about me." "What's that?" She turned to face him fully, and the intensity in her gaze made his pulse quicken. "I never make a bet unless I'm absolutely certain I can win. The question you should be asking yourself is not whether you'll lose, but whether you're ready for what comes after." Before Vincent could respond, she pushed open the stairwell door. "On 3?" He positioned himself beside her, adrenaline flooding his system. "On 3. 1. Natasha crouched slightly, her body coiled like a spring. 2. Vincent's hands flexed, his competitive nature overriding every other thought. 3. The descent.
They exploded into motion simultaneously. Vincent immediately pushed ahead, his longer legs allowing him to take 3 steps at a time. The sound of their footfalls echoed through the stairwell, creating a rhythmic thunder that matched his racing heartbeat. Floor 41, floor 40, floor 39. He risked a glance back and saw Natasha right behind him, her movements precise and economical. She wasn't trying to match his stride. Instead, she moved with a different technique, using the railings to help swing herself around corners with practiced ease. By floor 35, they were neck and neck. Vincent's breathing was becoming labored, but he pushed harder, determined not to lose. Natasha's breathing was steady, controlled, and he realized with growing concern that she was pacing herself while he was burning energy fast. "You okay there, Mr. Carter?" she called out, her voice barely strained. "Perfectly fine," he gasped, though his legs were beginning to burn. Floor 30, floor 25. Natasha pulled ahead slightly, her track training evident in every movement. She had found her rhythm, and Vincent understood with startling clarity that he was in trouble. His pride pushed him forward, but his body was protesting the sudden intense activity after months of neglect. Floor 10, floor 5. With a final burst of speed, Natasha launched herself down the last 2 flights, her movements almost graceful despite the speed. She reached the ground floor stairwell door a full 5 seconds before Vincent stumbled through, his hands on his knees, gasping for air. Victory and vulnerability. Natasha stood before him, barely winded, a triumphant smile lighting up her face. "That was a good effort, Mr. Carter, really." Vincent straightened slowly, his pride stinging more than his aching legs. "You've done this before. Track and field, college championships, 2 years running. I may have forgotten to mention that part." "Strategically omitted, you mean?" "Possibly." She moved closer, and Vincent caught the faint scent of her perfume mixed with the clean smell of exertion. "So, I'm yours for the day. What's my first task?" Natasha tilted her head thoughtfully. "First, we both need to shower and change. Meet me back here in an hour. Wear something casual, not your usual work uniform." "Casual?" Vincent frowned. "I have meetings scheduled." "Cancel them," Natasha said simply. "Or did you forget the terms? Whatever the winner says, Mr. Carter, that was the deal." He was right, and Vincent found himself both frustrated and intrigued by her authority. He nodded slowly. 1 hour. When he returned, dressed in dark jeans and a simple navy Henley that felt strange after years of suits, Natasha was waiting. She had changed into jeans and a cream-colored sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked softer somehow, more approachable, and Vincent felt his heart do something complicated in his chest. "Where are we going?" he asked. "You'll see." She led him to the parking garage, stopping at a modest silver sedan. "We're taking my car." Vincent, who hadn't driven anything but his luxury vehicles in years, found himself in the passenger seat of Natasha's practical Honda, watching her navigate through morning traffic with easy confidence. "This is part of your plan, making me uncomfortable?" "No," Natasha replied, glancing at him with a gentle smile. "This is part of showing you something you've forgotten." The Market of Forgotten Moments. 20 minutes later, they arrived at a bustling farmer's market in a part of the city Vincent rarely visited. The morning sun painted everything in golden light, and the air filled with the scent of fresh bread, coffee, and flowers. "A farmer's market?" Vincent questioned, genuinely confused. "When was the last time you did something normal? When was the last time you walked around without a schedule, without a purpose beyond just existing?" Vincent opened his mouth and realized he couldn't remember. His days were planned down to the minute, every action serving some greater business objective. Natasha took his hand, and the casual intimacy of the gesture shocked him. "Today, Mr. Carter, you're going to remember how to be human. Come on." As she pulled him into the crowded market, Vincent felt something shift inside him. The world suddenly seemed brighter, fuller of possibility. Vendors called out their wares, children laughed, couples walked hand in hand, and for the first time in years, Vincent Carter wasn't the CEO of anything. He was just a man, holding hands with a remarkable woman about to discover what he had been missing all along. "First stop," Natasha announced, leading him to a coffee stand. "Real coffee, not that automated machine stuff in your office. Then we're getting breakfast, and you're going to eat it sitting down without checking your phone once." "You're enjoying this," Vincent observed. Natasha looked back at him, her smile radiant. "Immensely. But I think by the end of today, you will too." She was right. Though Vincent didn't know it yet, this day would change everything. Not because of the bet, but because Natasha Monroe was about to show him that the life he thought he wanted was nothing compared to the life he could have, if only he was brave enough to reach for it.
The farmer's market buzzed with life as Natasha guided Vincent through the crowded aisles. He found himself holding a paper cup of artisan coffee that tasted nothing like the precisely calibrated espresso from his office machine. This was richer, earthier, with notes of chocolate and caramel that unfolded on his tongue. "Better than your usual?" Natasha asked, watching his expression with amusement. "Different," Vincent admitted, taking another sip. "Not worse, just different." "That's the spirit of adventure I was looking for," she teased, steering him toward a stand overflowing with fresh pastries. "Now, pick something. Anything that appeals to you, not what you think you should eat." Vincent stared at the display of croissants, Danish pastries, and colorful macarons. For years, his breakfast had been calculated for optimal nutrition and efficiency. A protein shake, occasionally some egg whites, nothing that required thought or pleasure. "The almond croissant," he said finally, pointing to a golden pastry that glistened with sugar glaze. Natasha ordered two, along with fresh strawberries and cream. They found a small table under a tree, dappled sunlight filtering through the leaves, and sat down. Vincent realized with a start that he couldn't remember the last time he had eaten breakfast outside, surrounded by strangers living their ordinary, beautiful lives. Learning to breathe again. "Tell me something," Natasha said, biting into her croissant. "When did you stop doing things like this?" Vincent considered the question carefully. "I'm not sure I ever did them. Even in college, I was focused on building my future. Every moment had to count towards something." "And did it?" she pressed gently. "Did all that sacrifice give you what you wanted?" He looked at her, really looked at her, seeing the genuine concern in her hazel eyes. "I built an empire. I have wealth, influence, respect. But are you happy?" The question hung in the air between them, simple yet profound. Vincent opened his mouth to give the automatic response, the one he gave investors and journalists. But something about Natasha's steady gaze made him pause. "I don't know if I remember what happy feels like," he admitted quietly. Natasha reached across the table and placed her hand over his. The gesture was tender, not pitying, and Vincent felt warmth spread from that point of contact through his entire body. "Then today, we're going to remind you," she said softly. "The art of simple pleasures." After breakfast, Natasha led him through the market with purposeful wandering. They stopped at a stand selling handmade pottery, and she insisted he choose a mug. "Why?" Vincent asked, picking up a deep blue ceramic piece with an irregular, handcrafted shape. "Because every morning when you drink your coffee, you'll remember today. You'll remember that life exists outside of quarterly reports." They visited a flower stand next, where Natasha selected a bouquet of wildflowers in purples and yellows. "These are for your office," she declared. "Real flowers, not those corporate arrangements your assistant usually orders." "You're my assistant," Vincent reminded her with a smile. "Not today," Natasha countered, her eyes sparkling. "Today, I'm something else entirely." The words carried weight beyond their surface meaning, and Vincent felt his heart accelerate. What exactly were they becoming to each other? The bookstore revelation. Their next stop was a small independent bookstore tucked into a side street, the kind of place Vincent would normally walk past without noticing, his mind already 3 meetings ahead. Inside, the smell of paper and ink enveloped them, and shelves stretched from floor to ceiling, packed with stories and possibilities. "Find me a book you loved as a child," Natasha instructed, releasing her hand to browse the shelves herself. Vincent wandered through the fiction section, his fingers trailing along spines. It took him nearly 20 minutes before he found it, a worn copy of The Little Prince,
the same edition he had read when he was 10 years old, before business school and corporate ambitions had consumed him. He pulled it from the shelf, opening to a random page. "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." The words struck him with unexpected force. "Found something?" Natasha appeared beside him, holding her own selection. "Something I had forgotten," Vincent murmured, showing her the book. She smiled, a genuine expression of delight. "Perfect. We're buying it." At the register, Vincent instinctively reached for his wallet, but Natasha stopped him with a gentle touch on his arm. "My treat. Consider it part of your day of following orders." They ended up in a nearby park, sitting on a bench overlooking a small pond where ducks glided across the water. Natasha had bought sandwiches from a food truck, and they ate in comfortable silence for a while, watching families play and couples stroll past. "Can I ask you something personal?" Natasha said eventually, turning to face him. "After everything today, I think you've earned that right," Vincent replied. "When did your marriage end?" The question caught him off guard, but somehow it didn't feel invasive coming from her. "I was never home. Even when I was physically present, my mind was always at the office." She said it was like being married to a ghost. He paused, the old pain surprisingly dull now. She was right. "Do you regret it?" "I regret that I hurt her," Vincent said honestly, "but I don't think we were right for each other. She wanted a partner who could be present, and I didn't know how to be that person." "And now?" Natasha's voice was soft, almost tentative. "Could you learn?" Vincent turned to look at her fully, seeing vulnerability in her expression that matched his own. "Is that what today has been about? Teaching me how to be present?" "Partially," she admitted, "but also something else." "What?" Natasha took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. "Showing you that someone could care about you beyond what you can provide or accomplish, that you're worth spending time with, not because you're Vincent Carter, CEO, but because you're Vincent, just Vincent." The afternoon sun